Okay, so now we're done with the basic concepts of communication and culture. Let's now proceed with the different views on culture as provided by Sorrell's 2013. So he distinguishes three perspectives in defining culture. We have anthropologic, globalization, and intercultural studies. So what all these mean? Anthropology is the study of human beings or human nature. So the anthropologic perspective is reflected in the definition of culture as a system of shared meanings that are passed from generation to generation through symbols that allow human beings to communicate, maintain, and develop an approach and understanding of life. So for instance, if a young man in Arabic countries wants to start dating a girl, it is normal to ask her father for permission. But such a practice in Slovakia would be interpreted as strange. In the Philippines, many of you do not even share your courtship experiences with your parents for the fear na magagalit sila sa inyo. So, tinatago nyo, ayaw sabihin na nagpapaligaw kayo at ayaw nyo sabihin na may nililigawan kayo. At best, it would also be taken as a cultural difference. That's what we have discussed last time, di ba? Isa sa mga cultural differences on relationships. And therefore, it is important to be aware of cultural differences and avoid judging actions on the basis of your own cultural system. Okay? That's according to anthropologic view. For the globalization view, another perspective of defining culture is in the context of globalization. Apadurai and Eudes introduced the idea that at the present period of globalization, it is better to view culture as a resource in the sense of economic and political exploitation. So, what does that mean? For example, TV music shows like yung The Voice Philippines, X Factor, Got Talent, yung mga ganyan. These gain popularity in a number of countries all over the world and have become a resource for economic growth in global trade. So, according to Sorrells, culture is also used as a resource to address and solve social problems like illiteracy, addiction, crime, and conflict. So let's proceed. Let's move first to the Apadurai and Eudes idea of the present period of globalization to be viewed as culture as a resource in the sense of economic and political exploitation. Kung mapapansin nyo, nagkaroon ng spread ng um, culture because of the rising getting a franchise of these particular programs, TV programs that we have. Okay? So, yun yung naging resource natin for economic growth in global trade. So, mas yumaman ng yumaman yung mga yon. Yung mga kumuha din ng franchise dito, kumita kasi maraming nanonood. Okay? Yung kay Sorrells naman, about culture is also used as a resource to address and solve problems like illiteracy, addiction, crime, and conflict. An example of these may be, if you're familiar with the funk music produced in favelas in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, it serves as a kind of platform to challenge racial discrimination. Sa Philippines, may mga ganyan din tayo. Marami tayong singers, no, na dinidiscuss yung katulad si Freddie Aguilar, yung mga songs niya, kanta ni Glock 9. Ayan. These are, dito, culture is also used as a resource to address social problems. Okay? That's according to globalization view. And for cultural studies view naman, culture is understood as a contested site of meaning. Culture is seen as operating as a kind of hegemony or domination through consent, as suggested by the Italian Marxist philosopher Antonio Gramsci. Okay. Now, let's try to connect culture and globalization. Kasi on the first part of our discussion, we tried to relate communication and globalization. But before we do that, we have to link communication and culture and globalization para makita natin yung connections nilang lahat. Okay? Our early ancestors lived in a small village. Most of them really ventured far from their own communities. So they lived and died close to where they were born, and much of their information sharing was done through face to face communication with people who were much like themselves. Kasi wala naman tayong ibang platforms noon and technology that would address communicating others in remote areas. But over the years, Advances in transportation, improvements in telecommunication technologies, increases in international business and political exchanges have brought strangers from different parts of the world into face-to-face contact. In fact, in 1964, Canadian media culture analyst Marshall McLuhan coined the term global village to describe a world in which communication technologies such as television, news, radio, news services brings news and information to the most remote parts of the world. So today, McLuhan's vision of a global village is no longer considered an abstract idea, but a virtual certainty. So we can exchange ideas as easily and quickly with people across the world as our ancestors did within the confines of their village. Di nila nagawa yun before, okay? We form communities and societies, and we were able to encounter people from different cultures in business, at school, in public places, in our neighborhood, and in cyberspace. So we may hear clothes made in China, purchase seafood from Thailand, dine out with friends in an Italian restaurant, or work at a computer made in the United States, drive a car manufactured in Japan. The list goes on, no? Each encounter with new food, clothing, lifestyle, art, language, or practice teaches us new things outside our village culture. So that is the concept of the global culture. Now, globalization lies at the heart of modern culture, and cultural practices lie at the heart of globalization. That's according to Tomlinson 1991. So this quote raises questions about the challenges that we face living in the global village. Globalization is the process of increasing interconnectedness between societies so that events in one place of the world have more and deeper effects on people and societies far away. That's according to Bayliss and Smith, 2001. So today, we can just say, um, we can watch and read about the same events at the same time, di ba? Mag-browse lang tayo sa net, makikita na natin lahat yon. That's regardless of time and space distance. So with email, social media, bulletin board, satellites, fax, mobile phones, we can contact people anywhere and anytime. So if you want a more personal exchange, we can use Skype or any video desktop technology like Zoom, Gmeet. These can bring a person at the other end of the globe onto the computer screen right in front of us. So words like blogs, an abridgment of the term web blog, and podcasting, an amalgam of iPod and broadcasting, to vlog, video, and log. These all have appeared in our dictionaries since the beginning of the 21st century. So, especially Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, super dami. Facebook even, no? It's now a global phenomenon, allowing people from all walks of life to post their profiles online and communicate with other users across the world. Dami na natin ina-add friend kahit di natin kakilala, di ba? Ultimately, interconnectedness between people and the erosion of geographic borders make our village more global, but our world smaller. So what does that mean? The arrival of immigrants brings various changes to the host cultural environment, and intercultural encounters provide opportunities for understanding between people as well as the potential for misunderstanding. So I have a question. Do we actually partake of a more unified or diversified world because of communication technologies bring us closer? Or what are the biggest differences? What remains the same? So you have to screenshot this and let's process this in our class discussion later on. Now let's proceed with the concept of theory of global village. Now, the notion of global village in the process of globalization pose more questions than answers. So, Anura Gunasekera 2001 defines globalization as the widening, deepening, and speeding up of worldwide interconnectedness in all aspects of contemporary social life. So, this interconnectivity breaks down the boundary between East and West. The metaphor of a global village has caught the imagination of many people, including political leaders and intellectuals. Gunasekera further argues that paradoxically, we find that while technology has given the world the means of getting closer together into a global village, this very same technology has also given rise to unprecedented fears of domination by the technologically powerful nations. O sino ba yung mga technologically powerful nations dito? China, US, there are a lot. Japan, many from Europe. So, yun yung fear. Okay? Nila. So, some Asian leaders feel that globalization creates fears of cultural liquidation, particularly among smaller nations na madi-diffuse sila sa larger nations. So, consequently, the global village is viewed more as a threat to cultural identities than as an opportunity to create a more consensual culture among people. Just like, for example, no, the rise of English as a global lingua franca. It's inevitable. Everyone is nearing towards that. And anong magiging consequences nun? Some of our indigenous languages would start to be dying kasi hindi na siya nagagamit, wala nang intergenerational transmission of language, kasi lahat tayo mas nagpo-focus na tayo sa kung ano yung kailangan ng mundo, what globalization needs. At yun na yung concept natin. Is there really unity and diversity? Or if we are uniting as one, maraming mako-compromise? So that's a question. And a problem in the theory of global village. Question. In what ways can online communication shape the structure and development of interpersonal relationships such as friendships? So do you think our continued reliance on technology-mediated communication will lead to a weakening of interpersonal communication skills? Screenshot that and let's process that in our next discussion. Now, we have different perspectives on globalization according to Held and McGrew 2007. The first one is globalist. So, the globalists view globalization as an inevitable development which cannot be resisted or significantly influenced by human intervention. So, mangyayari ito, whatever we do, at lahat tayo will always go with the flow. For traditionalists naman, um, they argue no the significance of globalization as a new phase and masyado daw siya exaggerated. It means the traditionalists actually do not embrace change, no? The concept of newness. And they don't have the concept of openness to these changes. And they believe that most economic and social activity is regional rather than global. And they still see a significant role for nation states. And the transformationalists naman, they contend that globalization represents a significant shift, but they question the inevitability of its impacts. So ito yung mga different perspectives na meron tayo on globalization. So why is there a necessity naman for intercultural communication dito sa globalization natin? Let's start first with the concept of multiculturalism. Especially so that there are countries na melting pot na ng cultures like Philippines, Hong Kong, and other parts of the world na ang daming nagmamigrate doon. 'Di ba? At they are establishing their own culture there while learning the culture of the country. So all over the world, nations are trying to come to terms with the growing diversity of their population. Remember, current news of Canada na medyo magbabawas na sila at magkakaroon na sila ng stricter, tighter entry restrictions because mostly ibang mga tao na sa ibang bansa ang nagtatrabaho sa kanila and marami ng Canadians ang walang work. So behind the overt, visible symbols of cultural diversity is a concept of complex and often implicit concept of multiculturalism. So what is that? At a descriptive level, multiculturalism can be used to characterize a society with diverse culture. As an attitude, it can refer to society's tolerance towards diversity and acceptance of equal societal participation. So, in attempting to maximize the benefits of cultural diversity, let's just say, for example, there has been an accompanying awareness of some potential threats to our cultural uniqueness. Globally, host nationals have expressed concerns over the threat that new ethnic cultures may pose the mainstream cultural values and the political and economic power structure and the distribution of employment opportunities. Di mo yung nangyayari sa Philippines ngayon? If you're familiar with Catanduanes, an island, pinamumugaran na pala sila ng Chinese nationals and ang dami na din palang mga introduction, nagdo-dominate na yung Chinese culture doon. Same as true with the concept of allowing illegal pogos dito sa Philippines. Uh, ang daming actually questions dyan, no? And our country is a good example of this. So, I don't want to dig deeper on these issues anymore kasi masakit ang ulo ko, but you have to think of it. Okay? Now, we acquire many of our cultural beliefs, values, and communication norms at an unconscious level. So, cultural socialization, in addition, can encourage the development of ethnocentrism. So, ano ito? It means seeing our own culture as the central and best one, the superior one, while thinking of other cultures as inferior. Now, ethnocentrism is not good because it may lead to prejudice, stereotypes, discrimination. Ito na yung mga nagiging problema natin sa intercultural communication later. Okay, didiscuss natin yan. Now, it is a barrier, nakalagay, to effective intercultural communication because it prevents us from understanding those who are culturally different from ourselves. In contrast to ethnocentrism is cultural relativism, which is the degree to which an individual judges another culture by its context. So, cultural relativists try to evaluate the behaviors of a culture using the culture's assumptions about reality. So, although one element of a culture by itself may seem strange to a non member, it generally makes sense when being considered in light of other elements of that culture. So, to understand another culture, therefore, we need to communicate with its people and broaden on our understanding of its practices and beliefs, thus enhancing our sense of cultural relativism. Hence, the need and benefit of intercultural communication. So, by understanding the beliefs, the values, and worldviews that influence alternative communication approaches, we can understand the logic that motivates the actions or behaviors of others who are culturally different from ourselves. Cultural differences do not prevent us from communicating with each other. Rather, they enrich us through communication. Culturally sensitive communication can increase relational closeness and deepen cultural self-awareness. And tumataas nga actually sinasabi nga nila na if you want to be more intelligent pa or ma-practice ang mind mo, you learn another language. And learning another language is not simple, 'di ba? You have to be immersed with the culture of that language as well. So, napakahalaga na magkaroon tayo ng culturally sensitive communication because it will also help us personally. Okay? Now, this particular slide discusses the key building stock of intercultural knowledge is our ability to engage in intercultural communication. So it can help us to build our knowledge of other peoples and their cultures, as well as enhancing and consolidating our knowledge about our culture. So the result is invariably greater intercultural understanding. The ease of global interaction in business, politics, education, and travel has brought strangers from different parts of the globe into face-to-face contact, which is true. Tama? And that's inevitable. Lahat yan mangyayari at mangyayari. Now, intercultural communication means only communication between individuals of different national cultures. It also came to mean communication between individuals who might differ, for example, in ethnicity, socioeconomic status, age, gender, or lifestyle. So hindi lang sa ibang bansa 'yan, kundi pati rin sa atin. Okay? So, what good implication does this particular thing provide? I think as teachers, as educators, sooner or later on, you'll meet someone of a different race, of a different cultural orientation, and that having a strong grasp of intercultural communication skills would really help, foster intercultural understanding with these people. And it's our role as educators to foster that within them and within us. Okay? It is general to understand that intercultural communication takes place when people from different cultures and ethnicities start communicating. So, Scollin and Jones 2012 distinguish three areas of study in the communication between members of different culture. So we have intercultural communication, cross-cultural communication, and interdiscourse communication. So let's start with intercultural communication. It concentrates on studies of the actual interaction between members of different cultures. For example, how French managers communicate when they are not satisfied with the work of Slovak subordinates. Another example here is the study of Bailey 2000, who explored communication patterns between Korean shop owners and African American customers. Now, the research was based on the analysis of video recordings of conversations in shops and conversations with shop owners and customers. The results revealed that Korean shopkeepers were very brief. Masyado silang concise sumagot. Okay? And, you know, yung African American customers nila, they felt offended by such conciseness. In contrast, the African American customers tried to start small talk and make communication more personal, but they were felt ignored by the Korean shopkeepers. Bakit kaya? Um, Ang Korean shop owners pala, they interpreted personalizing communication as a sign of bad manners because they are in a business transaction. So, yun naman yung paniniwala nila. So, nakikita nyo yung differences of our interactions no, between members of different cultures. So, ganun siya. Now, we have another two, cross-cultural communication studies and studies in interdiscourse communication, but we'll be discussing that on the next part.